The ENFJ, and they're very creative people, but there's two subtypes to help spot them out. They are intuitive types, so they are also tend to be more difficult to find, but when you do find them, you'll notice they do have a very positive and altruistic attitude towards life often, but not all the case, obviously. So we'll start with the theory by Meged and Ovcharov, and then I'll dive in with the videos examples, and we'll just dive in right now. So first, for the extroverted feeling subtype, the key variables to look for is that they behave according to rules of a good form in society. So they're very emotionally formal, and that formality can oftentimes be expressed in a modest way. And that, with that said, that moves to the next variables to look for, that they are very modest and constrained in their emotional expression. So they are emotionally expressive, but at the same time, it also tends to be constrained in a very controlled, polite manner. As in strangers, they can restrain themselves. They are externally very proud and aloof, and it's probably the best word to describe them. They're very proud and aloof, and you'll notice it with the other examples I'll pinpoint. But this proudness and aloofness makes them very almost relatable. It's not like hubris in which they try to enforce themselves as being better than other people, but there is a sense of control of their emotions, and it does demonstrate a sense of pride. Their mood varies so it can be just mostly expressions, and they dress very effectively. So the overall, some key tips is that body language. Oftentimes they can also be corpulent at times, but not all the case. But just know they are very emotionally modest and formal at the same time. But the best words is to describe them is that they're proud and aloof, but not all the case. But a lot of the times you can notice this, and you'll see with the examples overall. But mostly modest. That's the best words I can say for them. Now, for the introverted intuition subtype, this is a more unique type because they are very original and creative people, and they're both very extravagant and unpredictable. They're very inquisitive and talkative and emotional enough to be impressionable. So the best word is probably within this first sentence or two is that they're very emotionally impressionable. So in this sense, you'll notice that they're very creative people who are very extravagant and who have a great ability to make cultural critiques in society, in whatever expressions they present themselves. They're very emotionally liberated and artistic, and they easily express their feelings. They speak with feelings and enthusiasm, and they sometimes project a venomous and haughty image. So just know that there's these enthusiasm can be mixed with a haughty image of which can somewhat make them pricky, I guess. That's one word to describe it, but this haughtiness is something that can be shown as something of a pride almost in comparison to the other subtype. So just know that they are very liberated and artistic, and you'll notice them with their emotional expression. And the last few variables is that they're very active and social people, and their movements and gestures, I would add, is very gusty, impulsive, and lacking in restraint. So this is probably one of the most creative types because they are often, you can see them in comics books, writers, or they can be comedians. They can be cultural critique as well, in the sense that they do theater, they do comics, they can be actors a few times, and they could be even producers creating unique ideas. And you'll notice that the best way to look at them is that they're very impressionable. So that is something I'm going to emphasize. They're creative and impressionable people, and they're very emotionally expressive in compared to the other subtype. And that's why they're intuitive, and they have a very unique view of making cultural critiques of what's wrong, what's right, or why things are culturally inconsistent in the world today. So those are the two subtypes. Extroverted feeling, just know they're more emotionally controlled, but they're also proud and aloof, and they tend to be very formal in their approach to the world at times, while the other subtype is more unique in the way that they are willing to present themselves more aggressively, but to demonstrate unique ideas to the world. Other subtype extrovert feeling, oftentimes you can find in religion, not all the times, but great leaders as well, teachers, within at least the higher education at times too, also sometimes high school. And the intuitive subtype is they're very creative. They can be found in multiple cultural aspects. So right now I'm going to leave you with the video examples, and I hope they help you in order to help spot these kind of personalities in real life much better as well.
To tie it into the things I've been writing about, there are certain cradles of creativity that occur. Florence in 1470, when Leonardo arrives. Philadelphia in 1770, when they start holding continental congresses there. Silicon Valley and the Bay Area in the 1970s, when Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all these people come to the Homebrew Computer Club. New Orleans has a broader mix and diversity of any place I've ever been to, meaning, you know, just among the black communities, there's like 5 different, you know, Creoles and French Creoles and gens de couleur libre and, you know, descendants of slaves. And likewise, almost every country has sent people to New Orleans. And you can hear it in every inflection of the backbeat of the jazz and funk music, because it all flows together. You can see it in every bite of food you eat there. You can see it in the architecture. And so one of the themes of my book is how people who celebrate diverse environments and diverse interests, from math to music to engineering to the humanities, tend to be the most creative. And when this country, I don't want to get political here, started feeling like it was coming.
Learned it as a spiritual psychologist. You look at someone, you see either a bee or a butterfly. Both are purposeful. Both, when you really look at them, are beautiful. But there's a perception about one. It can sting me and hurt me that you don't have at the other. So you're looking at a black man. Police officers, many, you know, I don't even want to say police officers. I want to say human beings. Look at other human beings. In many cases, if the human being is a white male looking at a black male, he sees a bee. And what do people do when they see bees? They swat them.
That's right.
Let me tell you something. I am a educated, well-spoken, articulate African-American woman.
Yes, you are.
But when they stop me, I'm black. I'm a black girl with braids in my hair, which speaks to what so many of us experience. I got stopped on the DC Beltway a couple of weeks ago, and I put my hands up. And I stayed there, and the officer said...
And this is the thing. I think I have to just say, everybody is feeding yourself on the hysteria and the negativity. You gotta stay in the light. But one of the reasons why I was so excited is about A Wrinkle in Time, because the message is that the darkness is spreading so fast these days. You must become a warrior of the light. And the reason that's so meaningful to me is because that's how I've led my whole life. And every moment in that film, I just felt like, I'm just saying what I normally say.
It's true.
and for these times, the darkness is there to show you your light. Look at what has happened. So if you put the focus on, look at what happened with the darkness that showed up in Parkland, and the darkness that showed up on the streets of Ferguson, and the darkness that showed up in many homes in Chicago with shootings and senseless murders. It brings out the best in people. It brings out the best. And so that's what it's there. We live on a planet where there is darkness and light. You know, one of the things, I am not running for office. So I'm not letting you go there.
To mentor, I don't think you have to devote your life to guiding one person through their life. It can just be a wink and a nod. It can be standing up for somebody when they're in trouble. It can be saying, that is a brilliant idea, and when you need help, come and see me. You don't have to, it's not a life sentence. It's just really being encouraging and finding somebody that you believe in and letting them know.
Who would say, you know, that you're not supposed to, you know, leave your children better than you were before? And plus, prospering, it's not just, you know, material things. It's peace in your mind and health in your body and things like that. And so there's a, you know, a belief that you're supposed to suffer more and be poor and to show your humility. I don't see the Bible that way. I see that God came to, you know, Jesus died that we might live an abundant life and to be a blessing to others. I can't be a big blessing to people if I'm poor and broke and depressed and I don't feel good about myself.
If you're poor...
I think it's a mixture of things. I don't think it's just not praying enough, because there's some great people that are just, haven't broken through in that area. And I think that, there are forces trying to hold us all down. And a lot of people haven't been trained and they haven't been inspired that, hey, you know what, you're in the projects, but you don't have to stay there. God's got a plan for your life.
We all have challenges in life, and I think one of the most important things that we have to do is to stay focused on who we are and the truth that lives inside of us. And that's what I did. I just began to stay focused on who I was and let Him fight your battles for you. Then you'll come out on the other side stronger and with more wisdom than ever before.
What? Right.
Well, talking about people.
It's not a good thing to do when the suit is still
well,
in
and
process.
you know what? It's not my place to talk about people. I'm here to encourage people. I'm here to lift people up. I'm not going to get into that, but I just know, that a jury of my peers unanimously thought that it was nonsense and it was called a frivolous lawsuit. And so that's all, that I really want to talk about it.
It's interesting. The show was marketed as a hard comedy early on, and it really was never that. It was designed to sort of be, a sci-fi show. It takes place on a spaceship, but with actual people behaving as they actually would in that kind of situation. I think oftentimes with a sci-fi show, you see like a very wooden, very unrealistically noble kind of presentation of the characters.
Yeah, right.
And this was supposed to be like, this is like working in an office.
Of Captain?
Yeah, I know them both. I know Patrick better than I know Shatner. But
because you did a show with him. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, they both. Patrick sent me a really nice email at the top of the premiere, and I heard Shatner tweeted about us. I haven't seen it, but
really,
I know he is occasionally on Twitter.
Did you ever
stand a judgment of others? The guy who made Yoga Hosers can't stand a judgment of others for the rest of his life. But I can compete. Like I love that shit. Let me tell you something. We're going to talk about Hollyweed back in like 2016, January of 2016, right before we went to Sundance with Yoga Hosers that year. So it was like 2 weeks before we went to Sundance. So we shot it with a company called Fremantle with the idea that they'll shop it to the world and find a home in the traditional kind of make a pilot way. But in the traditional kind of, hey, we made a pilot and nobody wanted it way, which is predominantly what it is out here. Out of 100% of pilots that get made, 10% is what we see or whatever. We fell into that other 90 where people are like, oh, it's a weed show, I get it, next, and move the fuck on. There was a disjointed, I guess, had been set up at Netflix, so a lot of people were like, we got one, that's good.
Thin shelf in Walmart on the edge of the aisle that's got 2 books side by side, and people would flip through them like this. And so the first 3 books in the shelf were always just bent completely in half. And so I'd be like, oh, well, this one's not bent too bad, so I'll buy that. And so like that's my comic buying, experience, because I lived in Cynthiana, Kentucky, which was very small. And so we're going to Lexington, Kentucky, which is the big city. And we're driving, and all of a sudden I see this sign that says Comic Interlude. Whoa, hold on a second. Is this like a store that sells comic books? It's like you go in, like what? That you can get them in places.
Literally the first comic shop you ever
I didn't even know a comic book store existed. I don't know if I wasn't reading the ads in the back of comics because they would say things about, but a lot of the ads in the back for comic shops looked like catalog things, and you're like, I don't know.
Yes, basically it gives more votes to the former slave states, and that was done 200 years ago to convince the slave states to be part of the new country. So basically, the Democrats have won the popular vote in 6 of the last 7 presidential elections, which means since Daddy Bush was elected in '88, the Republicans have won only once in 30 years, since '88, and that was in '04 with Junior Bush, and he only won by 1 state with 65,000 votes. So the American people have made it very clear for 30 years, they do not want the Republicans running the country. They want the Democrats. And yet, considering that they've won that many times, and that every opinion poll shows that the majority of Americans agree with the Democratic Party platform more than they agree with the Republican Party platform, the Democrats, as we sit here today doing this podcast, hold 0 power. They don't have the White House, they don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the Supreme Court anymore.
God. Well, no, when Ben thought of it, and right when he said it, I was like, oh, that would be amazing. I should finish school. I should go back to school when the girls go. And he was like, no, I'm bringing that up as like the conflict. And I was like, oh, but I think the girls would love to go to school with me. Like we could go together. He's like, no, the point is that maybe this is not the best idea. And I was like, I go to school with my mom, but he was like watching my mom and I'm sure we were like fiddling around in the kitchen, and he was watching my mom, who is so sweet and nice, as you know, and he started thinking about her at the age I am, and then what age would I be, and like, what if she went, somehow he like created this whole weird thing in his head. He's like, what if like the character I play is kind of based on my mom. She's very optimistic, very happy.
Oh,
but I
okay.
go back to school with my daughter and
So there is
have
some
a new
reality there.
relationship. There's a little, no, not for me. I was a wreck in college.
Oh,
And I had more Thanksgivings in London than I ever had here in the States because all the American people that live over there celebrate. So it was actually really nice celebrating an American holiday not in America, so I decided to do it again this year. So on Craigslist, and I
come
just
on
said,
now.
yeah, I have some friends, like American friends that live there. So for me, the holidays are always just, I don't like when everybody's organized and doing the same thing on an exact day. It's too organized for me. I like a little chaos. So I like unplanned activities. So it was fun to do it there. It was like, you know, they're getting into the holiday spirit. It's a nice time of year. So it was really nice. I'm kind of getting back to my holiday spirit roots, if you will.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
maybe I'll celebrate Christmas. Who knows?
I was gonna say, will you go there for Christmas then?
No, they asked me not to come back for another 2 years.
okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you. I lost 107 pounds, and the best thing is I kept it off for 3 years, and that's the toughest part because I always knew I had to get the weight off, you know, just to get inside and deeper and work on the real stuff in there. So for 3 years, I've really been working on my emotional and internal issues that made me eat in the first place. Because we all do these things to medicate ourselves, whether it's eating, drinking, whatever. And the last 3 years have been a real journey.
But what do you really do to keep it off? I mean, I feel like that seems like the hardest part.
The big thing is the emotional eating for me. So what I do is every day when I feel like I'm gonna go to food, I go, am I physically hungry? And I sit there for a minute, and if I am, I eat it. And if I'm emotionally hungry, I try to do what I need emotionally, whether it's laugh, cry, call a friend, read a book, take a nap, whatever. And sometimes I do say, I'm just gonna eat anyway.
But was this one of them?
That was one of them, yeah.
Because it came out, it's like, no special entrance this time.
Not only that,
I'm gonna come out very professional, a little bit angry, and then I flipped the switch. Yeah. For the premiere of Jumanji right across the street, they shut down Hollywood Boulevard, and I was feeling pretty good about that we were taking over because only once in a while do they shut down the whole Hollywood Boulevard for an event.
Right.
That's when you know you hit the big time. But then I was going to pick up my boys from school today. And I was like, what is all this horrible traffic? I gotta get to my boys, I gotta get over to Jimmy Kimmel. And then I realized it's because of my stupid
Your own
Hollywood Boulevard shutdown. I had to go way around, take a detour over through the 101, up through some, thank goodness for Waze.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not no interest, but I definitely came to it through knowing Trey. I mean, even though I didn't grow up knowing anything about musicals, I'm really not knowing anything about musicals except for Fiddler on the Roof.
Why?
Because my mom is Jewish, and I think she thought it would make me more Jewish to listen to that soundtrack over and over. So I really know Fiddler on the Roof, but I didn't really know that was a musical. It was just an album we had in our house. But then when I met Trey in college, and he was really into musicals, and you know, and also like we were both into Monty Python. So you know, just comedy-wise, we kind of had this connection. And then, like Trey said, we did Cannibal the musical, and then from then on, I kind of. Although I don't think it's ever going to be in my DNA like it is with Bobby and Trey. I've gotten to, I've gotten a real reverence for the form. I mean,
we were like, this is going to be a musical. It's going to be a musical, you know. And so, it's just something. I was actually a music major when we met. You know, it's just something that I love, and so, yeah, it wasn't. It was great. When I remember, I got a letter actually from Stephen Sondheim. I just randomly got a letter from him saying. That was one of my favorite musicals of the last 15 years. And then he actually sent me another one. After you get paired with someone and they are your companion for 2 years. And you don't really have a choice. And there's all these rules of what you and your companion can and cannot do. And you cannot, by rule, you can't go anywhere without your companion or do anything with it. And so we're just like, let's treat that like the typical Broadway relationship. And we'll have the breakup and we'll have the, you know, are they going to get back together and all of that kind of stuff.
Sounds like